if you've dealt with us at all, one of the things you'll hear us harp on about is managing risk. To manage your property well, to ensure that you are covered, and obviously we are covered, you need to look at managing all aspects of risk. The management of risk is to protect the property, the owner, the property manager, and the guest. It's to protect the owner's property, the owner's revenue, the owner's cash flow, the owner and the manager's reputation, the occupancy rate of the property, and your payments to owner. Managing risk is vital. There are, how many are there? I think there's about 8. There's 8 areas of management risk. The first of these, and may not seem the most obvious, is platform risk. Most people, when they list a property, simply list it on Airbnb. That's fine. But when you have only one supplier, only one person that is listing your property, you are entirely reliant on them. Risk 100%. If Airbnb stopped tomorrow and they're your only means of advertising for guests, you're down. No revenue, no guests, no booking elsewhere, 100% risk. If, for instance, they put up their fees tomorrow and they said, let's charge 5% more, 10% more, let's do whatever, because it is your only area that you have, you're an absolute platform risk. Now, how do you minimise that? Have more platforms. Therefore, list on booking.com, and it's 5 or 6 different sub websites and businesses that they own. List on Stays and their wide variety of websites they have. List on the property manager's website. Good property managers should be looking to get anywhere from 25 to, if they're getting above 50%, unbelievable, fantastic work. The reason why that is good is because your property now has great risk spread. It may have a certain percentage here with this one, a certain percentage there, a certain percentage there, and a certain percentage there, and the risk is spread right across. So if one of them stop, if one of them has financial trouble, if there's regulatory problems with one of them, or council or zoning or whatever with a particular OTA, you're covered because you're in multiple channels. Number 2 in managing risk is insurance risk. Now that's obvious. It may be obvious, but people make the assumption, this is my house, this is my unit, this is my whatever, I have insurance on it, so that'll be fine. Now, most times insurance has been, if you've been living there, it's owner-occupier. You're now going to use it for short-term holiday accommodation. Completely different insurance, completely different cover. Your owner-occupier insurance won't cover you. They'll still take your policy money and all of that until you go to make a claim, and then Airbnb, airbooking.com, you had guests. I'm sorry, you've had the wrong policy. We don't cover this. And you won't get a payout, you won't get a refund of past payments made to them. So what do you need to do? You need to look and make sure that you've got comprehensive insurance for having short-term rental guests at the property, but you also need to do more than that. You need to, depending on the insurer, some insurers will give you that cover if only tenants or guests stay in the property. Now, that may be fine for you. You may live interstate or overseas, and that's not going to affect you. It may be that you live an hour's drive away. So, for instance, here on the Sunshine Coast, our owners of properties in Brisbane, they use it from time to time where they will book a weekend and come up, them, friends or family. Now, that's fine as well. But you must make sure that your insurance will cover you. Because some insurance companies, because the owner is using it for their own personal use, their insurance is then void. So you have to make sure that your insurance is fit for purpose, that the insurance on the building will cover both you and also your short-term rental guests. You must make sure that your insurance for contents cover will cover you for accidental. Now, accidental is guest is walking around, one son chasing another son, bang, they knock something over, they break it, there's a claim. Accidental. What you also, and most importantly, want and rarely ever will get to use is malicious and deliberate. Couple stays, she says, you're a loser, I'm sick of your temper, you carry on, I no longer wish to be with you. He then walks through the property and breaks all the windows, doors, walls, surfaces, whatever, and there's $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of damage. Now that would be a nightmare, but if you had deliberate or malicious, it will cover you. If you have simple contents insurance, that won't cover you because that only covers accidental. So don't think by having contents insurance that will cover you if you have a guest who goes rogue. You need to make sure that you've got the right cover. So when insurance, make sure that you have that correct cover. The last one you might not be aware of is make sure that your property manager is a licensed real estate agent. Make sure that they have a current real estate license. Easy enough. Go to the relevant state real estate body, enter their name, look it up and see if they're there. If not, just ask them. If they haven't, you may find that when the claim comes in for insurance, you have the right insurance cover, you have the appropriate building and contents, but they still won't pay because it was being managed by an unlicensed agent, therefore it wasn't compliant with their policy, therefore they won't pay. Insurance is for them trying to get out of payments. Make sure, cover your risk, manage your risk, have the right policies and make sure you've got a licensed manager running it. Guest risk. 8 years ago when we started with this rarely was ever mentioned ever as a topic or area of concern. It is now foremost front of mind with us with every single guest, which is guest risk. Managing the guest to make sure that the guest identity is valid. Making sure that if John Brown books, it is John Brown's driver's license that we've received off him, and make sure that it's John Brown's driver's license that we have, and make sure that John Brown with these details is not on the list of professional hosts like us with a software service that flags John Brown as causing trouble or damage at a previous visit. You must verify the guest. You must verify their credit card, not just that it's John Brown, but that it's not a stolen card. All of those things must be done for every single guest. If you don't, the element of risk for you goes up enormously. We have it as a policy, every single guest, we have to have all these things provided. It's something we follow up. We will have guests from time to time who will cancel and say, I'm not providing all that, or some don't even say anything, they just cancel. Our thing straight away is we believe it's obvious that this person didn't have the details that fitted with what they booked under, and they may have booked it for a party, an event, a function or whatever. They may have booked it for other purposes, but we've caught them at the verification of identity. So for managing guest risk, absolutely. The other thing with managing guest risk is when the guests are at the property for noise. Now, people may think it's funny, well, away on holidays, we've got a night and let's make a noise. Well, they see it as one night away. How's that going to hurt anyone? You've got to remember, the neighbours that are there, they're there every night. So the person that makes a noise tonight for their only night here, and then the ones who come tomorrow night for 2 nights, who make a noise on 2 nights, because we're only here for 2 nights, they get it every night. So what do you have in place for managing guest risk, for recording, monitoring noise and notifying you when noise volumes go up so you can immediately get onto it and stop it at the property? Fourth element of managing risk is the cleaning risk. You've got cleaners. What's the reliability? How can you ensure not just that they turn up to do the clean, which is the basic, but the fact that it is reliably done on everything is done, to make sure that you have consistency, to make sure that the property is cleaned every single time as it should be, to make sure that the bin under the sink is emptied, to make sure the dishwasher is emptied, to make sure all of those things that leave a clean property are done, and it's not just someone walking around looking and thinking, I think I've done everything. You've got to be able to manage the cleaning risk. Also with cleaners, what are you going to do for managing risk? You've got one property, you've got one cleaner. She says, we're off for 6 weeks holiday. Or my husband's just surprised me, we bought a caravan, we're travelling around Australia, we'll be back in a year. Or whatever other scenario appears. Or they just don't turn up one day. What happens then? What's your plan B for managing risk with your guests? Number 5, in these days of increased compliance, record keeping, customer complaints, you need to be aware of zoning and planning risk. What are the increased costs from your local councils from being a short-term rental property? What happens if a neighbour complains to the council? What's your procedure for contacting all of the neighbours and ensuring that they know to contact you if there's a problem? Making sure they contact or your manager, making sure that there's a process in place where they can get any problems immediately addressed, whether it be noise or something else, or they've parked on a driveway or they've done something else. What do you have in place to measure volume levels? Because if you've got a neighbour who actually doesn't like having Airbnb, doesn't like having a family next door, doesn't like having a rental next door, and they will complain to the council, what do you have in place to measure volume levels so you can, with factual evidence, provide an example to the council and say, that's not true. This is the measurement. We had a house in Mooloolaba, and neighbour, an older gentleman, said to us, don't want it as an Airbnb. It's fair enough. I was talking to him, and then I said, would you prefer a family? He said, no, God, no, I don't want a family. And I said, what, a house full of young people? He said, no. And I said, who would you want? And he said, this is a 4 or 5 bedroom house. And he said, ideally, a single older person or a very old married couple. And I said, well, look, as long as the people are quiet and respectful, it shouldn't matter who they are. Our first guest stayed, he put a complaint into the council. Our second guest stayed, he put a complaint to the council. A third guest stayed, he put a complaint in the council. Council contacted me. We have noise monitors at that property. We supplied the council with the graphs from the 3 lots of guests and their stays there, and all the background noise in between each visit. And there was no noise, there was no whatever. He made 3 false claims. We then went to the neighbour and said, we've been to the council and this is what's happened. And if you've got a complaint, we're more than happy to address it. If you keep making false claims, we will take other action. And lo and behold, all of our complaints to the council ceased, because getting away with making up false claims wasn't going to cut it, because we were managing risk. We had documentation. We had records of all noise levels of that property as an ongoing thing. What are you going to do to ensure that you have that in place? That's about managing the risk. Number 6 is maintenance risk. Well, obviously the first thing with maintenance risk is to make sure the property is maintained. To make sure if a light bulb goes out, if a fan doesn't work, if an aircon's playing up, it's not blowing cold, whatever it is, you get it fixed. And for us, we have 45 different trades that we use for a variety of different problems. Anything would occur. If something happens, get it fixed. If there's a loose step, get it fixed. If there's something else, get it fixed. By maintaining the property, we maintain the owner's asset, we keep it in pristine condition, but you also ensure that there are no claims where a guest has become injured and there is a risk, public liability, suing insurance, etc., because there's an unmaintained item. And then you're in a discussion or a fight with an insurance company about something that you haven't done or haven't maintained. So maintain your assets. Have a full range of trades in order to ensure the lowest possible downturn of a property. We've had new owners, when something's come up, said, oh, leave it with me, I'll ring around, I'll get an electrician, I'll get it done now and I'll get back to you, okay? Because we've rung to get approval to do a job. They've rung back later in the day and said, I can't get anyone there in under a week. Is there anything you can do? I said, well, yeah, we were happy to do it at the start, so I'll ring you back. We've rung our electrician. He said, I can have a guy there later in the afternoon. We've rung the owner back and they've said, oh, okay. How many people did you ring? We said, we rang one. We use virtually on a daily basis, 1 or more trades. Number 7 is asset protection risk. What have you put in place to ensure that the property is as it should be, that it's maintained, that it has no damage, that there are no theft from the property? If there is a theft of a lamp or broken lamp or something else is taken, that you've got photographic evidence of the before and after, you're able to put in a claim against the guest and have it reimbursed. You must make sure that you have extensive photos, you take photos of an ongoing basis, and that you do all possible to ensure that the property is as it should be all of the time. And the only way you can consistently do it is to have a record, and nothing beats a photographic record. Photographic record, intense maintenance, photographic record. look after the owner's asset. Number 8, payments and money's risk. Now you would think, how can we be at risk? Someone makes a booking, whether they do it online through Airbnb, Booking.com, Stays, or the booking agent's direct booking site. Can't get out of this because they've paid us up front. Guest comes and stays. Well, in theory, that's great. In reality, there's 100 different ways that people can get out of paying or a full payment. Obviously, stolen credit cards, false credit cards. We've even had guests use their own credit card, stay for 3 days, then say to their bank, oh my God, somebody's used our credit card and they've stayed and the bank has asked us to provide evidence. Otherwise, they're going to give the guest the full accommodation, full cleaning money back. Of course, the guest has also provided their driver's license, credit card, verified their mobile and email. Very hard to get out saying, no, it wasn't me. They provided verification it was them. And so they've obviously tried it on. I would suggest we weren't the first they've done it to. They've done it to other people who don't keep records, who don't check, who don't have photos, who don't have proof of identity. And lo and behold, they apply and get their money back. So there's one. We've had people, this is disgusting, but we've had people stay at a property, take a photo and show us a human waste floating in the toilet and have said, this is what it was like when we arrived yesterday. We're only here for one night. It was disgusting. And the one last week was photos of 2 toilets, both with deposits in them, and saying how gross it was and they wanted a full refund for their 2 nights. Now, in management of risks, payments and monies, they're now asking for a full refund and all the cleaning money back. So the property is in excess of $500 a night, plus the cleaning. We're looking at just on $800 refund to the guest. What the guest doesn't realise, in our managing risk, we take photos, yes, inside every toilet. So part of the cleaners, when they clean, taking photos of everything in the property, they also take photos of in the toilet. So as a manager, when you're looking at it, you must make sure that you've got all of the photos and things in place to ensure that you're managing risk, that when people make false claims, you have photos in place to dispute. One of my favourites, lady rang up and said, we've just stayed last night down in Caloundra, which is here on the Sunshine Coast, and she said the property didn't have any towels for us to have a shower, so very disappointing this morning. And she said it was terrible, we all want to have a shower and we're just leaving now, it's too late and we can't do it, and we'd like a refund of all of our money. And speaking to her for a little bit, and then she said we would accept just for a full refund of the cleaning fee because you obviously haven't done as you said and provided the towels. So I said, one moment. I go to the photo of the cleaner. It was there just prior to them being there. She's taken full photos of the property. 3-bedroom house, and here rolled up on the end of each bed is a lovely white towel rolled up nicely as we do, and there's one with a second crossed over on top of each queen bed. So the 2 queens, 2 singles have all got 2 towels, and one towel on the end. So I said to the woman, she was on the phone, I said, I've just got the photos, I've sent it to you. There is a photo of a towel on every bed. Quick as a flash, she changed to say, I didn't mean those. I meant the ones that we wanted to go over to the beach, we would have used over there. And I said, okay, you mean the blue and white striped ones, the pool or bath towels or beach towels? And she said, yes, they're the ones. And I said, one moment. And then I sent her the photo showing the cupboards in each bedroom with the beach towels in them. And then she said, oh, no, the ones when you get out of the shower and you stand on them. I said, oh, bath mats. And I said, oh, no worries. I'm happy to send you those photos. Before I do, would you like me to send you the photos of the hand towels and tea towels too? And then she hung up on me. Terrible thing, but in managing risk, you have to manage it in the fact that not all people are honest. People will tell you tales. People will tell you stories. The last thing for managing risk for payments, monies, etc. is your property manager must be a registered real estate agent. Monies coming from your online travel agent, Airbnb, Booking.com, whoever, get paid to a dedicated trust account. And that's an official trust account linked to the property manager's real estate license, and then has to get audited. We get audited, I think, every month, and then Fair Trading then will also check it on an audit basis to make sure that it's compliant. If your monies are not going into a trust account linked to an agent's real estate license, if monies go missing, you may find there's no claim or means of you getting money back. There is no audit trail. There's no accountability to make sure that you got paid as you should. There is no process, and it isn't legal. So in managing risk, make sure that the person's got a license, make sure it is a real trust account and not just an account that they've set up and said, yep, this is a trust account. You can trust me. Clearly, it's not legal. Managing risk is to make sure you eliminate all of those areas that could be a problem to you. I hope that's a help. Thanks.